Welcome to Monterey County Pops Pros Teach. I'm Carl Christensen, the music director and conductor of Monterey County Pops. Our orchestra of fully professional musicians presents free concerts of pops and patriotic music throughout Monterey County. During the school year, we visit local schools and conduct clinics and workshops for student musicians in the afternoon. And in the evening, we perform together in a free concert for their community. We are committed to mentoring young musicians, and since we have not been able to visit schools since March, we have created this series of instrumental clinics. They will be broadcast once a week on Comcast Channel 24, and they will also be posted on our website, montereycountypops.org, along with downloadable exercises, tips, and other print material. Bienvenido a Monterey County Pops Pros Teach. Soy Carl Christensen, director musical de Monterey County Pops. Nuestra orquesta de músicos totalmente profesionales presenta conciertos gratuitos de música ligera y patriótica en todo el condado de Monterey. Durante el año escolar visitamos escuelas y realizamos clínicas y talleres para estudiantes músicos por la tarde, y por la noche presentamos un concierto conjunto para su comunidad. Para nosotros, la educación musical de jóvenes músicos es muy importante, y como no hemos podido visitar escuelas desde marzo, hemos creado esta serie de clínicas instrumentales. Se transmitirán una vez a la semana en el canal 24 de Comcast y también se publicarán en nuestro sitio web montereycountypops.org junto con ejercicios, consejos y otro material impreso descargable. And now please enjoy our electric guitar episode presented by guitarist Paul Magpusao. Ahora disfruten de nuestro episodio de la guitarra eléctrica presentado por Paul Magpusao.
Hello everybody, my name is Paul Magpusao, and in the background you're hearing a song called Papa's Got a Brand New Bag by one of my favorite artists who helped influence the music that we're going to cover today, and that's called funk. And we'll try to apply that genre with the electric guitar today. So if I didn't say it, that's James Brown playing Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. Yeah, and I'm here today on the invitation from Carl Christensen from the Monterey County Pops, and we've had a pretty long relationship in terms of music, and I just want to thank him and all those who are affiliated with Carl for giving me the opportunity to share some music and insight with you today. I'm not one to spend a whole lot of time talking about myself. What I want to do today is give you something that you can take and practice and apply to whatever you are doing already with the guitar. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to listen to some music, we're going to dissect it and pick it apart, and I'll show you some things that need to be done in order to play in this style, and then you can take it and live with it, and hopefully funk music is something that will appeal to you just as it has me. And that song right there, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, is something that captivated me during the 60s when I first heard it, as well as lots of other songs that kind of inspired me to take up music. A little bit about my personal background. Well, I'm a Salinas native. I was born in Alaska, but we only stayed there for about a year and came to Salinas in 1957, 1958, and I've been here ever since. I attended most of the schools here in Salinas, the elementary, middle schools. They were called junior high schools back then, and the high schools. And I was fortunate a little later on to be a part of Carl Christensen's program over at Hartnell. And I played in a few ensembles with Carl. I also studied over at Berklee College of Music in Boston. I attended. I went there for a couple of years, but I gained so much knowledge and just a lot of great things out of that school. It's something maybe that you might want to consider or think about. I studied arranging and composition, and the guitar was and still is my principal instrument. I also want to mention that I studied a little bit over at California State University, Monterey Bay. Over at CSUMB, I had the fortunate opportunity to study under Richard Baines, Paul Contos, and Juan Sanchez. And I think they may or may not still be teaching over at CSUMB. But I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out how important it is to know that we have such wonderful resources and teachers here locally that will get you going in music and just give you a wealth of knowledge. Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about before I start showing you some things on the guitar is my motivation and life experiences in music. And I think the main thing is that music gives me joy and a purpose in life, and I think I speak for everyone else who's involved in music in one way or another. Music is just a joyful experience in life, and it also gives you a purpose because every day you know you're going to have to practice if you want to get better. You know that you're practicing in order to prepare for a performance, and these are things that you can either write down on paper and write down your agenda, write your purpose down, or you can just pick up whatever instrument that you're playing, and it's part of your day. It's part of your week, your month. It'll stay with you for life. Another thing that I think is very important about music and the arts is that you meet so many people along the way, and what an outlet that helps you socialize with other people and get to know people and their cultures and their backgrounds through music. And lastly, it's fun. Music is just fun. It's a joy, and at my age, it's still and will always be a part of me. A little bit about the history of funk music. I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about how funk music came about. And what I know, and I'm still learning, is that music, this funk style of music, came about during the 1960s. And it was the result of the African American experience, the black experience in the communities and the music scenes, where we took music from the blues, or we took genres such as the blues, soul music, rhythm and blues music. All of these helped to formulate something we call funk. And it is continually evolving, just like lots of other forms, but what I played for you was the funk music that really turned me on to this style. Some of the basic elements that make funk music, which is what we're going to cover today, are its rhythmic groove. There's something about it that creates this groove and sensation, and a lot of that, and what I know, is the drums, the guitar, and a pretty creative bass line. All of these help to create something called funk. Today I'm also going to talk to you about the types of beats that help create this funk characteristic. And three basic beats are the downbeat. I'm going to show you what that looks like and sounds like. The backbeat and syncopation, syncopation is something that you'll find in not only music in other forms, but you'll also find it in the way people speak, and poets use syncopation, and even you can even apply it to sports. I think syncopation is kind of like the language in life that helps to create something interesting and unique. And one other thing is the harmonies. Harmonies in funk music use harmonies that are from jazz, which are extended harmonies, not just basic harmonies which use three notes. These are harmonies that use maybe 4 or 5 or 6 notes at a time. And so if you think about a palette of colors, right, we not only have the primary colors that make up basic harmony, but when you have extended harmonies in music, then you have a whole palette of colors that you can hear, and that's what makes funk music identifiable too, I think, and that's just something that I've learned. Some basic influential artists that I picked out for today are, of course, James Brown, and I want to also highlight the people behind the music too, and that's where the guitar comes in. Many of funk music's greatest songs and greatest music comes from the people that we don't hear about, the unsung heroes. And they may be guitar players, they may be people who play wind instruments like the saxophone and the trumpet. Well, I want to showcase the guitar players that are a part of this music. And the guitar player for James Brown was Jimmy Nolen. And Jimmy Nolen was behind all of these great songs that made James Brown a lot more popular than he would have been on his own. It takes a lot than just the artists that we see on TV or we hear on the radio. Betty Wright is a singer that whose music we're going to cover today too, and her guitar player was named Willie Hale, and Willie Hale, an outstanding guitarist. I'm going to show you a little guitar figure that he played that for most guitar players it might sound very basic and repetitive, but it's something that helped to influence funk music. And then lastly, if we have the time, Earth, Wind and Fire is also another influential funk group, and their first guitarist that I know of, his name was Al McKay, or is Al McKay, and I'm going to show you something that he does. Let's go ahead and get started with breaking down that first song, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. The song Papa's Got a Brand New Bag is something that is etched in our memories because of the way the guitar player plays and the things that Jimmy Nolen does. And I want to show you some of those things that he does today. First of all, let's put the song back on for just a little bit so that we can hear what Jimmy Nolen does. Yeah, and Jimmy Nolen is using something that is very basic, and I don't mean that in a trite way. He uses something called a E7 or a ninth chord. When we construct harmony in music, we can be as very basic as we want, or we can add different, what we call colors to a chord. And it makes it so much more richer and vibrant when we do that. And that's part of what funk music does. It utilizes very rich and colorful chords. An example of a very basic chord would be something like this. And if we play them together, we get this. Yeah. But then when we add other notes on top of that, and we rearrange them too, we get something that sounds like this. Yeah. And so what we want to do is to not get too complex, but make it a little different than just a basic harmony. And what Jimmy Nolan does in Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, he uses this common chord in funk music, and it's called a ninth chord. And this one happens to be an E7 ninth chord. Yeah. And he just kind of chops away at it. And that's basically what he's doing in Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. And when he does that, he has to be really specific where he plays. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you about the downbeat, the backbeat, and syncopated beats. Yeah. The downbeat is basically coming down on one. If we were to count 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. When we come down on the downbeat, we're coming down on 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And James Brown was infamous for having his band play on the 1. And he really wanted to highlight that. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And so he used the downbeat, but the backbeat, I think, is what really defines funk music. And that's playing on the 2nd and the 4th beats. So again, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we play on the 2nd and the 4th beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and that's all Jimmy Nolan does. And so simple, but so beautiful at the same time. And you don't have to, be loud. You don't have to, play fast. And Jimmy Nolan proved that with Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. So if I can show you how to play that chord again, maybe if we can get a close-up of where my fingers are at. And you'll have some diagrams too, I think, available for you. And you could just punch in and punch out with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my middle finger and I'm going to go to the 5th string, because we always count from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up. And I'm going to take my middle finger and I'm going to slide it over to the 7th fret. Yeah, so take the middle finger, slide it over to the 7th fret, and then you're going to take your first, or your, I forget what the pointer finger, or is it the index finger? Yeah, so you're going to put that there, and then the ring finger is just going to cover the bottom 3, or what we call 1, 2, 3. So there's an E7 ninth chord. Yeah, and when Jimmy Nolan plays, he has a way of taking this, which is called a pick or a plectrum, and it's kind of lightly gloss over the strings. Yeah, you don't want to be heavy with it, because then you're going to get something like this. Yeah, and the other thing that I'm doing is taking my fingers that are on the fretboard and I'm going to lift up a little bit too, because this stops the chord from ringing out. And that is just basically what is going on with this song in Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. So I want to play it for you. I'll just tap my foot to keep time and show you what Jimmy Nolan's doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he goes to another chord, which is another basic chord called A7. And A7 is when we take our first finger and we're going to slide it over, keeping them all in line to the 5th fret. And then we're going to take my ring finger and put it here somewhere. And you'll get a good chance to see this on the diagram. And then my pinky is going to reach out here. And so maybe you can get a close-up of that, or we can get a close-up of that to you. And this, again, we're going to pick in the same way we picked the previous chord. Then we go back to that. And just like this A7 chord, we use the same form, and we're going to move it up to the 7th fret, and that's going to be our 3rd chord called B7. Go back to A7, and then you're back to the E7, 9. And then he does this little thing. Yeah. So that's Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. And if I play along with the recording, it'll give you an idea of how that works. And that's what happens with Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. Take it and work with it, and you'll have some diagrams to have a closer view of the chords. Yeah. I picked another song that I feel really helps to give you an idea of something called syncopation. And this song is called Clean Up Woman by Betty Wright, and I think it was recorded in 1971. And her guitar player was Willie Hale. And Betty Wright, a phenomenal artist. She had some great musicians that played with her, and I want to highlight Willie Hale for you on a song called Clean Up Woman. And I've been listening to that song since 1971, and it still just really gets me going musically. It's something that, again, very simple, yet so effective in the way that it's played. And it's something that I think really highlights something that we call in music called syncopation. Now, we talked about the downbeat, where the downbeat comes down on 1. Yeah. And then we talked about the backbeat on 2 and 4. 3, 4. Well, syncopation is everything else. And that's playing ahead of the beat, behind the beat. If you take a ruler and you look at your inches, all of those other increments or units in between are, I guess, synonymous or a good analogy for syncopation. Yeah. So now we get to play ahead of the beat or behind it a little bit and make the rhythm sound a lot more interesting and new. So if this is the rhythm on the downbeat or on downbeats, we would play something like this. there's nothing wrong with that. But if you wanted to make it a little more danceable and upbeat, you would play something like this, where my foot is playing or tapping on the downbeats. I'm playing in between. And you can vary it a little bit. Yeah. And yeah, so let's go ahead and show you how to play the Cleanup Woman with Willie Hale on the guitar. The first chord is one of those major triads that I talked about, and it's just 3 notes, and we're going to rearrange them on the guitar so that they're right here. I'm going to take my first finger, put it on the 3rd string, and I'm going to slide it over to the 5th fret, and then these 2 fingers are going to fall in place there. Yeah. And you'll get a close-up view of that, I think. And that's a chord or a major triad called an F. And it's right here. There's another way to play F. You can play F all over the fretboard, and this F is going to be over here. Yeah, same chord name, just a different arrangement of notes. Yeah, and so that second one is right here. The third chord we're going to need is something called a minor chord, and that's going to be pretty simple. I'm going to take my ring finger and I'm going to line it up right here on the 3rd fret. Yeah, and it has a different mood to it already just by listening to it. That's a minor sound. So we have major, F, and F over here, back to that F here, and then we're going to go to this minor. I call it like a passing chord, I guess, and then we're going to bring it back to F. And if we play it in time, we're going to get this. Yeah, and you can play that as long as you want. I could play that all day. I could sit in front of the television and play that. Well, not all day, but I don't mind playing it at all. These kinds of things, they just bring me joy. Yeah. There's another part to the Cleanup Woman, and that's the bridge, and that's where I want to show you some other chords that you can use or add to your vocabulary, and they're called minor 7 chords. And again, they add more color to just an average, I shouldn't say average, because they're just as important. This would be a A minor chord, but if we add a 7th to it, then we get something like this, and we rearrange some of the notes to fit the guitar. We get this. Yeah. So now we have a minor 7. You take your first finger, you slide it over to the 5th fret, and then you take your 3rd finger here, you put it right here, and I'm going to add my pinky right there. Yeah. And then I'm going to play another minor 7 where I take my first finger and I just slide it down 1 string, and I'm going to add these fingers here, and I'm going to play this. Yeah. So we have 2 minor chords, A minor 7 and D minor 7. And then I'm going to slide it down here, just like that A minor 7. I'm going to slide it down here to the 3rd fret. Now I have a minor 7th, or a G minor 7th. Yeah. And you take the same form and you just slide it up again to the 6th fret. Only this time I'm going to add one of those 9ths that I talked about to that minor chord. Yeah. So now we get, whoops, let's do that again. Here's the bridge. And that's Cleanup Woman by Betty Wright and great guitarist Willie Hale. The last example or song example I want to share with you today is a song called Shining Star by the group Earth, Wind and Fire. Another very important group to listen to if you want to really understand and get to know funk music. And their guitar player is named Al McKay, or he was one of the original members of Earth, Wind and Fire. And in this song, he uses the same types of chords that Jimmy Nolan used in Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, and that's that 9th chord. And it's going to be in the same key too. So we're going to revisit the E7 9th chord with one variation. And again, it's a 9th type of chord, only it's something we call a sharp 9. And you're going to understand that hopefully by not only listening to the difference, but I want to show you just how simple it is to reconfigure a chord by sharpening one note or flattening one note. It's all part of the harmony construction. In this chord, or in this song, let's play it for you. It's called Shining Star. So there's lots going on in this song, Shining Star. And there are more than just one guitar part too. We hear, if you listen closely, you'll hear maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 guitar parts. But I think there are at least 3. And we're going to go over 2 parts today. And that's another thing about funk music, is that you have all of these different layers happening at the same time. And they could be a simple setup of maybe 4 parts to something as complex as maybe a band such as Earth, Wind and Fire with horns and vocals and all kinds of things going on at the same time. But that happens with guitar parts too. And in the studio you might find when these great artists record their music that they're dubbing and re-layering over parts, and that's something that I think Earth, Wind and Fire did a lot. Again, if I didn't mention, the guitar player for Earth, Wind and Fire is Al McKay. And Al McKay uses that E7 9th chord, or that 9th chord. And so we're going to go back to this, which is what we played in Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. Right? But only we're going to now take our pinky and we're going to add it over here. So now we get this. It's maybe subtle, but I think you'll hear the difference. Yeah. So we go from this to this. Yeah. And that subtlety in the sound comes from the blues. And in the blues, there are just a few notes that make music sound the way it does, and that 9th, or that sharp 9, is something that is used in Shining Star. So here's what Al McKay does, and he starts off with the sharp 9 chord like this. Yeah. And then he slams down on the fourth beat with the E7. Yeah, so he does this. And that's what happens throughout the majority of this song. But it's something that the minute you hear it, you just know that it's Shining Star because of how he jumps back and forth from the sharp 9 to the 9. Again, I'll play it. This time I'll play it with the recording and see how that fits. And we're going to go over that part too. And that goes on for a little while longer before we get to the bridge. But I just want to point out that when you're playing, you want to experiment with different ways of lifting off of your string. You want to strive not only just for, just the putting your fingers where they belong, but you also want to strive for achieving the right feel. And that comes with I think it comes mainly from listening to this music or to any kind of music, is to listen to it, immerse yourself in the music, and then you're going to understand when you need to, kind of ease off on the strings, or when you need to strike a little harder, or to use a little more finesse in the way you pick through the strings. So if I didn't have any of that, if I didn't apply sensitivity to the playing, I might get something like this. Yeah, so it's all not only in the feel but also in the timing. Yeah, and so that's the verse of Shining Star. The other part I wanted to show you is the little guitar picky part that I like to call, and you'll hear it, but let me show you how to play it first. And it goes like this. And that again it's important to play it with sensitivity, and you want to mute the strings, not only with your fingers on your fretboard, but I'm also using my palm on my right hand, and it helps to kind of keep the sound at bay. And that's the verse. And the only other thing I wanted to show you, because you may want to play the bridge on Shining Star. And again, we're going to look at 3 chords. And here is another 7th chord, which is on the 3rd fret this time, and it's called G7. And we're going to take our first finger, slide it over to the 3rd fret, and then we're going to take our 3rd finger and put it here, and our 2nd finger there, and we're going to play G7. Yeah. And then we're going to, let's go to A7, up to the 5th fret. Yeah. And then we're going to go to one of those 9th chords, the D7-9. Okay. And then we're going to go to same forms on the guitar, but only on the 3rd fret this time. Yeah. So you'll find that that's one of the great things about the guitar, is that one form will give you a lot of mileage, and you can just move it up and down the fretboard. So we have this for the bridge. And here's that line again. Whoop. That's the chord I want. Yeah, and that was Shining Star by the great group Earth, Wind and Fire. Hey, my time's up. I just wanted to again thank everybody involved with this production, the great folks here at AMP Studios, and again one of my mentors, Carl Christensen, for inviting me and putting all of this together. I really think that it's just a great thing for our community, and I hope you enjoy funk music and you take what I offered you today. Practice it and take a look at the references and the resources. I have included books. Some of I haven't really looked at, but I thought that they might be very useful to you. Take care, and I'll see you next time maybe.